following is a production of the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism at Western Illinois University.
Live from Salee Hall in high definition. News 3 starts now.
Good afternoon. 4.5 months have passed in Illinois and still no state budget.
What would have been the first meeting between the governor and legislators in 5.5 months was canceled over the weekend, postponing budget discussions until December 1st.
Today we're taking a look at the problems this budget impasse is causing for residents of Illinois.
We have team coverage on Budget Impasse 2015. Johnny Cather will join us later on in the newsroom.
But first, Anna Malay's Unica reports from the state capitol. Anna Malay?
Thank you, Emily and Bree. I'm here in the state capitol experiencing firsthand the amount of effort and work groups and organizations have put forth to make the legislators hear their opinions. Now, since the state budget impasse has continued on, state services have met with closures as well as loss of employment, and they've come here to the capitol to voice their concerns.
This rally is about the cuts of child care and home care for the senior citizens.
The fact that we're here kind of shows that we care, is our education, and if they don't give us these funds, then people are going to drop out of school.
The budget impasse has put a toll on a variety of people in the state of Illinois, and every voice is impatiently waiting to be heard.
Single mothers, mothers with children with Downs who shouldn't even be cut off to start with because it's a medical special need. They're all losing child care when they've already had a job that were told their child care was secure.
A lot of students get out loans and scholarships, but the MAP grant, if they take that away, that's like $4,000 they have to pay themselves out of their pocket. And not a lot of people have that money just lying around. They can't afford to pay the money that the state promised them.
Promised money isn't just missing from students' pockets, it's also missing from programs that are meant to serve the community as a whole. Children and the elderly are facing losses as well.
Even meal programs here in our areas are closing down, so we already have seniors and disabled that are going hungry.
When you can't get child care, you can't work. You can make the minimal amount of money and still get denied.
Over 100 child care centers closed down. We've got senior care, adult daycare that are going down from 5 days a week to 4 to 3. I mean, what's next?
As child and hospice care decreases, students face a similar dilemma in affording a higher education.
I personally received MAP grant, and it's the reason I'm able to attend college. I wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise, or at least I would be going in debt to do it.
So most people, it makes a difference between having a meal plan or living on campus if they're able to get a MAP grant, and that can make the difference of them actually coming to Quincy. Our representatives are supposed to be there for their constituents and help them get a proper education, then they're failing them right now.
But according to state legislators, it will take a lot more effort from all parties involved to get a functioning and stable budget.
It's not just as easy as people just saying, approve this spending or approve this bill, because the problem is that the state is spending more than coming in. But we can get there. It just takes reasonable people to sit down and say, how do we make this work?
The climate in the Capitol building has been very stressful, with rallies coming in and out, hoping for answers. Legislators have promised that they would make a budget pass. The question is, when? Reporting from Springfield, I'm Anna Malay Zuniga.
Thank you, Anna Malay. It's not only universities feeling the impact of the budget crisis. Other public institutions are having to cut back. News 3's Johnny Cather joins us live in the newsroom with more. Johnny?
Brianna, the Macomb Public Library is certainly feeling some penny pinching from Springfield lately. All of this in a time when they could really use that money to pay off some recent renovations. Last year, the state awarded the library more than $2 million as part of a $50 million state grant program for libraries across Illinois. But Macomb Library Director Dennis Danowski says the $250,000 the state is withholding will be some cause for concern within the upcoming months.
Right now we're putting off paying some bills, but it's going to come within the near future, maybe the first of the year, that we'll either have to get a loan or we're going to have to use some of our reserve money and pay it off, and hopefully the governor then will reimburse us.
It's a waiting game, but Macomb's renovations are largely finished. It's the 5 other libraries across the state currently undergoing renovations Danowski says have more to worry about.
We'll make it through this crisis. It's not. We're not as bad off as other libraries.
Danowski says patrons need not worry. Business continues at the Macomb Library as usual. Reporting live in the newsroom, Johnny Cather, News 3.
All right, Johnny, thank you for that report.
Western is not the only school affected by the budget impasse. I myself traveled to Eastern Illinois University and University of Illinois to hear how the budget is controlling university decisions.
Eastern Illinois University has 7,640 students, which is 4,500 less than in 2006. EIU is expecting even less students to enroll without a budget in the future. I spoke to Katie Witt, who is the executive vice president of the student body, and she's worried she might see the doors closing on her university.
And then as a student trustee, I'm seeing how the university is being affected, and it's kind of scary because every single meeting that we have had since February has revolved around this budget.
Eastern has had dozens of layoffs, and intercollegiate athletics have been cut as well, which is concerned student government is next.
Programs that we want to have, we can't do that. And like student government especially, we don't charge students for our events. It's just like free to the public because we're there for the students. So it's really hard on us to have those programs and those events for students to participate in and like come and support schools, like show school spirit and support EIU whenever we don't have those funds to have those programs.
Stephen Simpson is the Vice President of Academic Affairs. He also believes without a state budget, students will not continue to go to school because they do not have the money to pay.
Students weren't receiving that. That's a motivation to some students, like being able to have some of their college paid off, because that's one of the most stressful things, trying to figure out how to pay off college. Of course, the studying and everything is incorporated into that, but not knowing how you're going to pay for this education is probably the top priority for most students.
University of Illinois has great alumni networks and healthy foundations with continuing steady enrollment, which is why they have not seen big budget cuts like other schools. But without a budget in the future, they are preparing for what is to come.
MAP grants were promised to students, and they went to school with that promise. They enrolled with that promise that they would be receiving those MAP grants, and to put that in question or to ultimately not give those grants to the students is just a really bad situation.
But the problem is, when you have a budget that is so important to so many people's lives, you can't play politics and just hope that your ideas get pushed forward and put, millions of other people who live in this state at risk. Their futures are just as important, if not more important, than the ideology of a governor. So just lawmakers have to put that behind them and start working together to put.
MAP grants pay for a fourth of students' tuition, and students throughout the state are depending on the grants to be able to afford school.
The university just announced that they will credit $13 million to our to cover the students' MAP grants for the spring, but there was a precursor that that we may have to pay it back if the state doesn't pass the budget in time.
So the MAP grant is really important to me just because I wouldn't be able to be a student at Eastern. I wouldn't be able to have the leadership opportunities I've had or just get the education that I'm getting right now.
To be able to have that safety net and not have to worry so much picking up a fourth or fifth job and having my grades not be so good because I have to pay for it.
After speaking to the students, I asked them, now, if you had the chance to speak to Governor Bruce Rauner and legislators, what would you say? And they all agreed on the topic of higher education.
It's important to point out that it's just unprecedented what we're seeing. Never before has Illinois gone this far into a fiscal year without funding higher education. And
we need to know something as a school, a public university. It's almost January and we don't know where we are yet. So
students are going to pay attention to this issue. They're not going to sit idly by and just watch their MAP grants get cut, since typically students aren't paying attention. They aren't zoned in on a lot of key legislative issues, but MAP grants have caught their attention.
I feel like every single year they take more and more away from public universities, and we can't run on our own. We have to have the states the state backing us up.
Well, I'd say, Governor, there are 40,000 students here, and each one of them has a future that's based on this university. If you're going to pull our funding, you're pulling away our future. You got to stop, using our education as a bargaining chip to get what you want. Put that aside, put aside those games that you're playing, and deal with the actual issue at hand, which is getting the students the funding that they need to go to college.
WIU students filled the email boxes of Illinois representatives this week. Emails about the budget crisis. News 3's Mark Gorski has the story.
A student-run organization called the Issues Committee set up computers in the University Union with a pre-typed email that said how students are all being affected by the impasse.
We're really pushing for just the budget and higher education,
to be pushed into the budget as well, so that way our university can receive its MAP grants and things like that.
MAP grants have a great impact on many WIU students, including Kelly.
With us not getting our state funding, students aren't receiving their MAP grants, and if we don't receive that, that's around 3,000 students that won't be receiving MAP grants, and I myself receive MAP grants, and I know it makes a big difference for myself.
Student organizations are also affected by the budget impasse.
Earlier, student organizations aren't able to necessarily maybe attend or program or fund everything that they've been able to do in the past.
The Issues Committee also plans to do a phone-a-thon to make this a top priority, and it doesn't take too many phone calls to make a difference.
One of the things a lot of people don't know about representatives, if they get a phone call, if they get 5 different phone calls in a week about the same issue, that issue now becomes their #1 issue.
It benefits because it lets the representatives and senators know that we care and that we're paying attention to what's going on.
Today was the last day for the email-a-thon, and the phone-a-thon is still pending. For News 3, I'm Mark Gorski.
Thank you, Mark. Now still ahead, your Storm Team 3 weather forecast.
But next, Johnny Cather sits down with a public policy expert to discuss the cause of the budget impasse.
Stay tuned.
Now from Macomb in high definition, you're watching Emily Manley, Brianna Descoret, Storm Team 3's 5-day outlook, and sports with Eric Sutira. Live at 4 continues.
Hey, welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Casey LaFrance, who is an associate professor of political science here at Western Illinois University. One of his research interests is the public policy process, so we thought he'd be a great expert to talk to today regarding this issue. Thanks so much for coming in, Dr. LaFrance.
Thanks for having me.
So first question I might have for you, it's safe to assume that the residents of Illinois know about this budget impasse. They know that it exists, but in layman's terms, what has led up to it? Tell us about the how and the why.
I think you have to look back historically. This is not something that's happened over the last year. It's not something that's happened over the last decade. This is something that's happened over a series of decades. And really the explanation for it is we wanted politically expedient projects and funding decisions, perhaps at the expense of the long-term fiscal health of the state. And it's much easier to please people right now than it is to make long-term decisions for the future. So I think we're seeing the consequences of that. Our chickens are coming home to roost, so to speak. And the biggest part of it, I think, is the pension crisis, the underfunded state pension. If you look at Illinois compared to other states, no state has 100% of their pension obligations funded, but Illinois is particularly low. And a lot of the explanation for that, again, is political expediency. So that's probably the main causal factor, if you had to point one factor out. There's a lot of other corollary factors, but that one's probably the biggest one.
And obviously the policy process is very complex. It's got a lot of moving parts.
Sure.
Is there any person or entity that might be largely responsible for this, maybe more so than other entities?
Well, that depends on which partisan badge you wear.
Right.
So if you're an ardent Democrat, you might blame the current governor. If you're an ardent Republican, you might decide that Mike Madigan or someone else in the Democratic leadership is responsible. But I don't think it's something that we can blame on a single individual. I think other than maybe ourselves for wanting to be placated as citizens, for wanting things that cost money and maybe at the expense of our long-term fiscal health. So we tend to have a negative attitude about paying taxes. We tend to have a negative attitude about government in general, but only for the services that we don't receive. For the services we receive, we sort of expect them. So.
And in your professional opinion, where do you see this going from here? What are some possible outcomes we might face?
I really don't know, and I hate to say that. I know that might call my credibility as an expert into question, but this is not something that happens every day. It's not something that you read about in textbooks. It's not something that there's a lot of research done on. It's kind of an anomalous case. It's something that you wouldn't expect to happen, and the fact that it's gone this far is almost surreal. But I think eventually we're going to get a state budget, but the consequences, the repercussions of having this budget impasse and having this stalemate are going to be felt long after it's resolved.
Very interesting. And we've got just about 30 seconds left here, but it might be kind of subjective. Do you think the government's let us down, college students and senior citizens? Have we been a little let down by our government?
Well, I don't know. As a professor at a public university, I am part of your government, so I hope I haven't let you down.
No, of course.
But I think it has a lot to do with our expectations versus the realities. We all kind of want things, but do we want to pay for them? And
sure.
I think in some respects, it's something we should address with more civic education, more civic engagement, more people taking my classes.
He does have a great class. I can speak to that.
Just to plug that.
So,
but yeah, I don't think that government has let us down necessarily, but we're going to have to figure out how to. We are the government, so
sure.
I think we're going to have to figure out how to get past our political differences and
absolutely
maybe find some common ground.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Casey LaFrance, Associate Professor of Political Science here at Western Illinois University. And when we come back, your Storm Team 3 forecast. Stay tuned.
It has been raining and raining and raining for a very, very long time, all throughout the night. Some areas already picking upwards of 2 inches of rainfall. Taking a look at the courthouse square right now, you can see the raindrops on the lens. Still, basically, we're dealing with this rainfall all night. We are on the warm side, though, at 58 degrees right now. That is definitely above our normal temperature for this time of year. Keep in mind, we're in mid-November. A little bit on the breaking weather side of things, we have a flood warning now for portions of the Lemoyne River southwest of Macomb. That is through Friday morning. We're expected moderate flooding across that area. Flood stage upwards of 22 feet. Across the satellite radar composite across the entire region, you can see basically just a river of rain just flooding to the tri-state. That's going to continue for the next 12 hours. We're going to begin clearing out tomorrow, but we got a long way to go. All this very heavy rainfall across Missouri is all going to be moving our way. Some places we could be looking upwards of 2 to 3 more inches of rainfall. But again, we are on the warm side of things. See temperatures in the 60s and 70s across our south area. Very warm conditions for this time of year. We're going to continue that tomorrow before the cold front moves through. Again, temperatures maybe around the 50-degree mark, but then we are looking at a chance for some snowfall. Here's Futurecast through Thursday, and then through Saturday morning, we're looking at a chance for maybe some flurries across our area. That's going to continue for the next few days, but other than that, mainly pretty calm out there. For tonight, 53 degrees, gusty conditions upwards of 30 miles per hour. For tomorrow, 56 degrees, and we're dealing with showers pretty early on, but ending by noon. 5-day forecast definitely gets a lot cooler. Temperatures warm up just a little bit as we begin drying out for the midweek period, but by the weekend you can see temperatures plummeting. Only 38 degrees is a high for your Saturday, and temperatures in the lows below the freezing mark.
Sounds like it's basketball time, right?
I would say so.
Okay, that means, Danny, it's your time too.
Raining threes, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Up next in sports, Western Illinois athletics literally did not lose over the weekend, including the Titanic upset WIU men's basketball pulled off at Wisconsin. Then they kept rolling at home. Also on the gridiron, the Fighting Leathernecks took Indiana State down to the wire on the road. And the IHSA girls basketball season officially tipped off on Monday at the Lady Bomber Classic. Stay tuned for all the highlights you can handle next on Live at 4. Welcome back. I'm Danny Fry in for Eric Cetera today with sports. The Macomb High girls basketball team hosted its own Lady Bomber Classic taking place this week. The opener for MHS wasn't an easy one against Illini Bluffs. First intros of the 2015-16 season at Washington Street Gym. First possession for Macomb, Kessie Fields knocks down the jumper from the left wing. 2-0 MHS 20 seconds into the game. Baseball pass down court that leads to a layup by Billy Fox. Illini Bluffs starting to settle in. Bombers down 8-2. It's Fields again with a pull-up jumper to cut the lead in half. Final seconds of the first quarter, Tiara Lemmerman hits the right wing three. Tigers leading 15-4 after 1 quarter of play as she celebrates with her teammates. Second quarter, 3 no good, but Sydney McClintock is there for the putback. She's the sister of Taylor McClintock, a sophomore guard on the WIU women's basketball team. Illini Bluffs led 35-10 at half. Mia Lambert with the finger roll layup, but in a losing effort. Tigers take the season opener 58-36. Bombers back in action tomorrow at 8 o'clock in Washington Street Gym. Shifting to college sports, the Western Illinois football team traveled to Indiana State on Saturday in a must-win ball game, and this one was indeed a nail-biter. Didn't look like it early, though. Isaac Harker on the QB keeper from 8 yards away, PAT no good. 6-3 Indiana State, 6:39 left in the first quarter.
Second quarter now, Trenton Norvell out for the season with appendicitis. Sean McGuire starting under center, 9-yard touchdown run. Western trailing 20-10 at halftime. 11:06 left in the fourth quarter. WU down 30-24. Nico Watson smashes his way into the end zone to tie it. The extra point was blocked. This game went to overtime, tied at 30. Leathernecks get the ball first. It's Watson. 1-yard touchdown plunge, 37-30 Leathernecks. Pressure on the Sycamores to score or the game's over. Fourth down and about 4 for Indiana State. Game on the line, pass attempt broken up by Adam Brott. Leathernecks come back from a 17-point deficit to pick up Valley win number 4. McGuire throws for 332 yards, good enough for Stats FCS Freshman of the Week. Watson, 30 carries for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joey Borsellino, 10 catches, 187 yards and a score. Western Illinois women's basketball in action on Sunday versus the Ohio Valley Conference favorite, SIUE Cougars. A little bit of a new look for the women's basketball team this season for the Leathernecks. Western on a mission in the first half. Sophie Reicheld drives, is fouled, count that basket, and one. True freshman Taylor Higamott says, hey, I can do that too. She followed up a 25-point performance in the season opener. Emily Clemens with some space drops the floater from the baseline. Pretty there. Leathernecks up 49-33 at halftime. The Cougars would make some adjustments in the second half. Coco Moore with the steal. Easy coast-to-coast finish. The OVC preseason player of the year, Sharonda Butts, connects on a corner 3, game tied at 58 after 3 quarters. Summit League player of the week, Michelle Maher to Michelle Farrow, draining the wing triple, putting Western up 74-67 late in the fourth. Final score, Leathernecks win 78-74. Western has a trip to Iowa next on Thursday at 7 o'clock. Of course, I don't have to tell you that the Western Illinois men's basketball team shocked the college basketball world with a 69-67 upset win against defending NCAA tournament runner-up Wisconsin. Western's first win over a Big Ten team since 1994. The Leathernecks stay focused, hosting Hannibal LaGrange in their home opener on Sunday. Western rocking the LA Laker type uniforms in front of their home crowd. After the upset, the Trojans of Hannibal LaGrange started off hot. Deshaun Terrell with the steal. He'll finish on the other end of the fast break. Terrell again dishes it to Stephen Campbell, draining the tray. Trojans led with 5 minutes left in the first half. Western on a run to close out the first half. J.C. Fuller slashing in the lane for the layup. Summit League player of the week, Garrett Covington, sinks the wing 3 and waits for it. He's got that swagger. Jalen Morgan and Mike McClusick will force this turnover. Then it will be batted around. Morgan ends up with it. Tomahawk slams it down with authority. Starting to be all Western at this point. Then McClusick, again offensively, deep 3, no good. Offensive board for Jalen Chapman. Finds Dalen Ankrum underneath. There's the jam. Leathernecks, a slow start, but they still rout Hannibal LaGrange. 94-57 the final. Covington, 14 points, 4 rebounds. Fuller, 13 points and 11 boards for the double-double. Western back inside Western Hall tonight against UIC at 7 o'clock. So before my voice completely gives out, give it to you ladies to wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Danny. We'll be right back after this.
It's been pouring basically all out throughout the afternoon, and for that we have a flood warning in effect for the Lemoyne River off to our southwest. We're expecting moderate flooding through Friday morning. Looking at tomorrow's forecast, though, 56 degrees with temperatures falling throughout the afternoon. Shower ending probably by noon, but again, it'll be very gusty out there. And a quick look at the 5-day forecast shows a cooling trend after that cold front. Looking at a very cold weekend for the Quidditch tournament on Saturday.
Are you going to go out to that Quidditch tournament?
I'm going to be in sunny South Carolina, so a little bit on the opposite side of things.
I don't like you. Let's just put it that way. But that's all from us today.
But you can stay up to date with us all the time on Facebook. Search NEWS3 WIU.
And for Nicholas Stewart, I'm Emily Manley.
And for Danny Fry, I'm Brianna Descaret.
And from all of us here at NEWS3, have a great evening.